Hello there. Have you ever considered what it was like for royal women in history? They were expected to be more than just mothers. They were essentially baby-making machines. Their lives were a relentless cycle of pregnancy and loss, and their value was almost entirely tied to their ability to bear children. They were married off as teenagers, faced with a brutal cycle of conceiving, giving birth, handing the baby over to nurses, and then returning to the royal bedchamber to do it all over again. Menopause wasn't something they dreaded. It was a longed-for escape, their only path to freedom. In this episode, we'll explore the lives of 8 of history's queens who bore the most children. Their stories are a testament to their strength and resilience in a world that saw their wombs as a political battlefield. First, let's talk about Mumtaz Mahal. Born in 1593 to Persian nobles, she married the future Emperor Shah Jahan at 19. While he had 2 other political wives, he had only one child with each to fulfill his duty, as his heart belonged entirely to Mumtaz. She was seen as the most beautiful and virtuous woman alive. More than just a wife, she was his closest confidant, traveling with him everywhere, including on military campaigns. He showered her with incredible wealth and the highest salary ever given to a Mughal empress. Together, they had 14 children, though only 7 survived into adulthood. Among them was Jahanara Begum, a powerful figure, and Aurangzeb, who would one day become emperor. Mumtaz's final childbirth was tragic. After 30 grueling hours of labor with her 14th child, Gohar, she died from bleeding. A heartbroken Shah Jahan channeled his grief into building the magnificent Taj Mahal as her tomb. He was buried next to her 27 years later. His death ignited a brutal war among his 4 surviving sons, with Aurangzeb emerging as the ruthless new Mughal emperor. Next is Queen Charlotte, a German princess born in 1744. She holds the distinction of being Britain's first known queen with distant African ancestry, a lineage that can be traced back 13 generations. She married Britain's King George III at 17. Surprisingly, they preferred their quiet family life to the royal parties. Charlotte wasted no time having her first child, the future King George IV, within a year of their marriage. Over the next 21 years, she gave birth to 15 children, including George IV, Frederick, William IV, and Edward, the father of Queen Victoria. Queen Charlotte loathed being constantly pregnant. While expecting her 14th child, she wrote that she wished for her freedom more than a prisoner. She said she'd be happy if she knew it was the last time. Despite her feelings, she deeply loved her children, and they adored her in return. She suffered the tragic loss of her young sons, Alfred and Octavius, to smallpox. Remarkably for the 1700s, the rest of her children survived to adulthood. Perhaps scarred by her own experiences, Charlotte fiercely protected her daughters. She delayed their marriages, with some never marrying and others waiting until their 40s. She focused on their education and kept them close, sparing them from the constant cycle of pregnancies she endured. However, none of her daughters had surviving children. In later years, King George III suffered a terrible mental illness, leading their eldest son to rule as Prince Regent. Charlotte died at 74, surrounded by many of her children. Now we move on to Eleanor of Castile. Named after her famous great-grandmother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, this Spanish princess married the future King Edward I of England at just 13 years old, while he was 15. Edward was a fierce warrior, but at home, he was a devoted and faithful husband. Eleanor was incredibly resilient, constantly traveling with Edward on his harsh military campaigns while giving birth to 16 children. Her first child, born when she was only 13, died within days. Her next 2 babies, Catherine and Joan, also died shortly after birth, a tragically common occurrence for young teenage mothers whose bodies weren't ready. Her 6th child, Eleanor, was the first to survive to adulthood. While on a crusade with the king, she delivered a stillborn daughter. By this point, Eleanor's body was exhausted. Disaster struck when her only living son and heir, Alonso, died of illness at the age of 10. So, Eleanor endured one final pregnancy, giving birth to her last child, Edward, who survived to become the ill-fated King Edward II. In 1307, while marching with her husband in northern England, Eleanor contracted malaria. Her worn-out body couldn't fight it, and she died at 48. Her children were summoned to say goodbye before she died. King Edward was utterly heartbroken and ordered 12 beautiful stone crosses to be built along the route of her funeral procession from Lincoln to London. Next is Queen Karen, nicknamed Anna, the daughter of a Turkish prince. She married King Leo II of Armenia sometime before 1262. Historical records praise her wonderful soul, beautiful body, and for being a good friend to her husband through trouble and joy. She gave birth to an incredible 16 children, including 10 single babies and 3 sets of twins. Her first 3 sons, including Constantine and Fahmy, died young. Her fourth, Hethum II, became king of Armenia but was murdered. Next came Isabella, followed by Taros III, who succeeded his murdered brother as king and was also murdered. Queen Karen's final pregnancy resulted in another set of twins, Ashen and Alan. Ashen, the youngest brother, also became king and was murdered. Utterly exhausted after so many births, Queen Karen became a nun, retiring to a monastery where she died in 1285. Maria Theresa, born in 1717, became the Holy Roman Empress. At 19, she married Francis Stephen, Duke of Lorraine, and fell deeply in love despite his infidelity throughout their marriage. Although women faced restrictions, she made Francis co-emperor but kept him out of important meetings, holding the real power herself. While fiercely defending her empire and pushing through reforms, she also delivered 16 children in just 19 years. She even once declared that if she hadn't been constantly pregnant, she would have led her troops into battle herself. Maria Theresa ruthlessly used her 13 surviving children as political pawns, arranging powerful marriages across Europe. Smallpox was a constant threat, killing several of her children. To combat this, she championed the new life-saving smallpox inoculation for her offspring. Her children included Ferdinand, Marie Antoinette, the future Queen of France, and Maximilian Francis, who became an archbishop. Jealous of Francis's many mistresses, she created a chastity commission to crack down on prostitution, homosexuality, and adultery, secretly hoping to catch her husband. Francis died after 29 years of marriage, and Maria Theresa mourned him in black for the rest of her life. She eventually caught smallpox herself and died at 63. Maria Carolina inherited her mother, Maria Theresa's, astonishing ability to have many children. She was incredibly close to her younger sister, Marie Antoinette. Her mother had already promised 3 of Maria Carolina's sisters to King Ferdinand of Naples and Sicily, but they all tragically died of smallpox. Maria Carolina, the next in line, was terrified and begged not to go, believing the marriage was cursed. Her pleas were ignored, and she was sent to Italy at 15. The marriage was an instant dislike. She found him very ugly, and he crudely complained about their wedding night. Despite her disgust, duty prevailed. Maria Carolina gave birth to 17 children, though only 7 survived to adulthood. Since Ferdinand was a weak ruler, she quickly seized power, using her surviving children for political marriages across Europe, just like her mother. When Napoleon invaded, the family fled to Austria, seeking help from her nephew, Emperor Francis I. Before Ferdinand could reclaim his throne, the stressed Queen Maria Carolina was found dead on her floor, surrounded by papers. She had suffered a stroke at 62, and she never saw Napoleon's defeat or her husband's return. Now let's turn to Queen Anne, born in 1665, the daughter of the future King James II. At 18, she married Prince George of Denmark. Their life together became a heartbreaking story of loss. Their first child was a stillborn daughter. Then came Mary and Anne Sophia. When the girls were almost 2 and 1, the family caught smallpox. Anne miscarried and both daughters died. The devastated couple often sat silently, holding hands in their grief. Over 16 years, Anne endured 18 pregnancies, losing every child to miscarriage, stillbirth, or early death. Only a few lived long enough to be named. Her seventh child, Prince William, Duke of Gloucester, survived the longest. He was Anne's beloved pride and joy, the last hope for the Stuart dynasty, but he died at age 11 of an unknown illness. Her eighth and ninth babies, Mary and George, were born alive but died within hours. Her 15th pregnancy ended in miscarried twins, too early to identify. Doctors now believe Anne suffered from Hughes syndrome, also known as sticky blood, which makes it nearly impossible for blood to flow through tiny fetal veins. A simple aspirin might have saved her babies, a truly heartbreaking thought. And now for the record holder, Queen Darajan Dadani of Georgia, with an astonishing 23 children. Born a Georgian princess in 1738, Darajan was married off at just 12 years old to the 30-year-old future King Heraclius II, whose second wife had recently died. He already had 4 sons. Over the next 30 years, Queen Darajan delivered an astonishing 23 children, 13 of whom survived to adulthood. Darajan fiercely wanted her sons, not her stepsons, to inherit the throne. She pressured Heraclius to sign a will stating that after his eldest son George ruled, the throne would pass to her sons. After Heraclius died, King George XIII immediately tore up the will, claiming his stepmother had forced his father to sign it. Rivalry exploded between George and his stepmother and her 5 surviving sons. They sought powerful allies, George with Russia and Darajan's sons with Iran. Alexander attempted a coup but failed, and Queen Darajan was arrested and imprisoned. When George XIII died in 1800, Russia intervened. Darajan begged Tsar Alexander I to make one of her sons king instead of George's son, Prince David.